So here's kind of where I'm trying to figure out what's best. If I'm looking for something that's simple and repeatable and I can keep the ball in the fairway and get it on the green most of the time, I'm curious to know your thoughts on more of a swing where you're like consciously trying to like keep the face, like we were talking about, and kind of let like that David Duval thing and letting feel that this is kind of coming this way from the top with rotation, so you don't actually, flip it
right,
kind of this, or more of a just, let it open and like let centrifugal force take it and close it. What are your thoughts on if I had to kind of pick one? Consistency through the bag, wedges to driver.
My thoughts as far as picking like an idea, like I said, when you have the proper sequence, even though like when you break the swing down, and you'll see players, when they get to the top here, and then when they make that shift, and then once they make that shift right here, and then as their hip opens up, at this point, now the club shaft is parallel to the target line right here, and the elbow is right in perfect position, so that this right angle that you've created with the right wrist, like right here, well, this is the point now that because the hip is open and obviously much more in front of the shoulders, the club is parallel, the weight is stable, and you're stacked on your left side. Well, now that your left side is stable, what's happening is that left side is creating that resistance so that the body slows down while the right wrist releases and then whips the club head through the ball.
Gotcha.
And then as that happens and it whips it through, this is the point in the swing then when you've heard references made to swing the club to the target.
Yeah.
Well, this is the point when the club is swinging to the target at this point. And the reason it feels like it's to the target to the right of us is because of the tilt that we've created. If we didn't keep that tilt, arms, we wouldn't be staying like that. We keep that tilt, and that's why the club looks like that. And then once we get to this point, this is when the wrist rehinges, because when we go, just like we go back here, when we come through here, we're not trying to extend anymore. If we were to try to extend more, we'd lose our balance. We'd go more on our toes, and we'd have to step forward to catch ourselves. So what happens is when we get here and then we whip it through, and we're right to here, now at this point, this is when we've gone full extension of our right arm right here. So in a lot of cases, you kind of feel like the club shaft is an extension of the right arm. But since the right arm is straight, like here, well, there's got to be a natural cupping in the left wrist when we're like that. And then from here,
straight right.
That's right. And then from here, then this is when we naturally rehinge, recock the wrists up here, and then that's when the body follows the momentum of the club, restarts, and then we just simply continue to rotate the weight around the foot to the outside, and then hold the finish.
So when you were talking about the right wrist kind of unhinging, so like I'm just making this up, but like from here, is it an active or more of just a passive unhinging of the wrist? Like
personally, myself, and I think pretty much any typical tour pro would tell you, it's a passive.
So don't try to unload into the ball. Just let it happen as the wrists are soft.
Yeah, it will. It will happen. I mean, when you do that, once again, you can't speak for everybody because depending on what people's issues are. But, if they just haven't felt that. But the whole idea, it's like anything. From a biomechanical standpoint, when I turn and when I shift here, and if I keep that tilt, like right here, my arms have successfully moved into my body. When I don't keep the tilt, that's when my arms are moving away from the body. So anytime I don't keep the tilt, well, now I'm losing that potential angle to whip the club. So as the arms go away from the body and I lose that angle and I've lost my tilt, well, now from here, now the arms are going to be working into the body and cutting across. But if I keep my tilt, naturally that's going to keep the elbow in and keep the elbow ahead of the wrist, so that now the wrist can properly unhinge and whip the club head. So that's why I say if these things are done prior to it, it's gonna feel like a much easier passive action
Okay.
to happen. That's why, like, when I do this, even though when you break the swing down and you see the club go like this,
Yeah.
and you see this rotation,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, though, it's not like a highly advanced player like notices in that about probably 0.3 of a second from
Yeah.
here to here.
Yeah.
It's not like they're noticing themselves like really cracking that whip and
Okay.
turning it over like that.
Okay.
I mean, that's why when it's in the proper sequence and they get to here and they whip it, I mean, it feels like a very passive action when everything is in the right sequence.
Okay.
You know, and as that's happening, assuming you're in this right sequence, well, if the club is on the proper path like that, well, now when you've done this, the face just simply stays square to the path
Gotcha.
in your arc in general.
Because you're not
So
trying to manipulate it or do anything
yeah,
with it.
and,
It's
and
just gonna-
technically that's what's going to create an ideally straight ball flight.
Gotcha.
Because all we're doing is we're swinging technically around our body more inside to inside of the target line.
Sure.
And if that club face stays square to that arc, right there, we're going to hit a straight ball.
Gotcha.
It's only when we swing, like I said, to hit a draw, well, technically, whenever we're talking about curvature, we're just simply talking about the club face either being closed or open to the path.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay? But if we're talking trying to hit more of a push draw, like so, well, now that brings the path into a different position. Now we're talking about the path being more inside to out, you know, with a slightly closed face to create more of this
Push draw.
effect,
Gotcha.
you know.
So like when you were talking about me, or when you were talking about, you know, anyone kind of, if they lose their spine angle this way, this elbow comes out.
It has to. It's just
that-
you can't.
Is that why I'm hitting all these pulls and slices? Like,
Because when you're here, yeah. Because when I ask somebody, like for instance, it's like when you feel like you strike it at your best, and you tell me that you feel like when you do that you hit a pull, that's a dead giveaway.
that you're doing this.
That's a dead giveaway that
Gotcha.
you're coming. Yeah, that you're
Gotcha.
coming from outside to in.
Yeah.
You're squaring the face up to the path.
Right.
The problem
But the
is
path is going this
the
way.
path is going this way.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
not here and going that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
All right. Well, let's see what I can do here. So recently what I've been playing around with is this, you know, feet together and just trying to feel the club here, the club here, club here.
I mean, it's always a
Here.
great drill to do when you are really trying to isolate the arms.
Okay.
And if you're having a really hard time feeling the weight of the club head, like maybe say for instance you're really having a hard time feeling the hinge, like proper hinge,
Yeah.
and the fact of the club working around you more circular.
Yeah.
That's
the
where
swing setter.
that's where even the swing setter or
Yeah.
even using your CB ball
Gotcha.
here can be a great way of kind of doing that, because when I get like this, I hinge it like this here, and I'm just swinging it around, you know, getting that idea that I'm just working it around my body.
And more
I'm not
letting
going,
it go.
I'm
Right.
not going like this, or I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
going
Okay.
like that. I'm just swinging my arms and I'm hitting.
So good to train your wrists and your plane to keep you on plane, right?
Absolutely.
Like you're saying, over the right shoulder, over the left shoulder, over the right shoulder. Okay.
Now, one thing you can even do to even take it up a notch from there, if you really want to isolate it, where it's like you're kind of keeping the body really out of it and completely isolating your
Yeah.
arms, is you can go like this, like stand right there for
Yeah.
me. Is you can do a little drill like this, where you line up the ball, like basically like right with the back side of your right foot.
Yeah.
Just right in here. Set the club down, and then you go
Oh,
left
okay.
over right like this.
Okay.
So you lock your hips in, and then you're just swinging like this.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Oh,
you just
interesting.
and then you just kind of swing,
Right.
and just getting that feeling of doing that
Yeah.
like back and forth like this. So
Okay.
the thing is, so like I'm doing, so if I know, like for instance, I'll kind of get up here, I'll do a couple practice swings at first typically, if I really need that feeling at it, because I
Yeah.
just want to see where the club's bottoming out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I want to feel like I'm getting, and once I feel confident like doing that, then I just come over, and then I'm really trying to feel very relaxed.
Okay.
Like this, you know, and then just
Gotcha.
hitting one and just
Yeah.
popping it. And then, like I said, if I know that you know, as I'm doing that, if, you know, I catch it a little thin, you know, like this, which is the most common thing to do on this because you're not
there's
turning
no
out.
rotation.
Yeah, the whole idea is just like, it's all all about isolating the arms,
upper body,
giving you this feeling of the CB effect, or even like the swing setter to a degree, with, you know, while still hitting shots.
Okay.
Like that way.
Okay.
Yeah. So that can be a really good little way of doing it.
Great. All right, so target in between the trash can and the red.
Yeah.
Oops. So I'm just gonna do like you said, just take a few practice swings, feeling the club bottom out. So that one went off right. And left.
So even like.
So here Steve's explaining to me how my spine angle was shifting toward the target on my backswing and away from the target on the through swing, making it almost impossible for me to come back to the ball the same place 2 times. It was more like a teeter-totter back and forward with my shoulders than rotation, which I would need in order to have a consistent type of strike on the ball.
What you actually do is this, like stay right there again. You get right there, and then you actually go like this.
In the backswing?
In the backswing. You get that way, keeping the knee out.
Gotcha.
And then when you come down to the ball, you do this.
So more like a teeter-totter.
Correct.
And it should be more rotational.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
It's like, because, see, when you're hitting the ball, you have a majority of weight on your right foot. Where obviously, when you look at top tour pros at impact, they have a
moving left.
Minimum 75% of their weight on their left.
Okay.
Yeah. When they're that, and once again, that's all related. Has to be that way to be able to get this lean effect in the club at impact. I have to. My body has to be in this position to be able to get that kind of lean effect. If I'm more like this, you know, leaning back, or this way, there's no way I'm going to be like this.
Yeah, or it's just so manufactured.
Yeah. Well, it's just like if you're back here, there's no way you will even ever manufacture this. Okay. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'll miss the ball.
Yeah, you might not miss it, but it's not going to be pretty.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if I'm thinking more,
so I've got to get you. Yeah, do that again for me. That's still a little bit. I need you here.
Okay. And so from here, this shoulder goes
like this.
That way, this knee goes in.
There. That's what I need you to feel at the top of your backswing.
Okay.
And then this, and then impact. Just follow me.
Yep.
Impact's this. That's impact.
Okay.
So your hips starting to clear, shoulders have squared up, and now this would be the point to where now the right wrist would just whip that club.
Gotcha.
Like through at that
so this
point.
Is here, then it goes.
You whip it through, and then everything would just simply go on for the ride. Yeah.
Instead of me feeling like I'm pulling.
And that's what's going to feel when you're on your right side more, and you're coming in.
Yeah.
That's what makes you feel like you're pulling, like the arms are getting pulled in, and you're turning them into alligator arms.
Yeah.
Instead of being able to feel like you can keep that tilt, swinging what feels more out to the target, and then that's when you feel so much extension.
Okay.
When you go through it that way.
So set up more here.
You gotta make sure you have more tilt.
And try to maintain that throughout the swing.
Because this leads to when you start it back. You go more
there
this
I go
way,
already.
And then you're gonna be more like that.
Gotcha.
So I want you like this.
Yep.
So that you can do this.
Well, this goes in. Yep. Okay.
And then which leads to this. Now you're stacked on your left side, and now you can whip it.
And it carries me. Instead of me pushing or pulling, it just takes me up.
That's right, because now you're so stable on your left You got that flex, and now you can create that resistance for the body to slow down.
And that's what lets this go when the body slows, like a whip.
When it slows, just like a whip.
Gotcha.
There you go.
The handle moves slowly, the tip moves quickly.
There you go. There you go. Yep. That's the idea.
So, as far as a feel goes, I'll just set up more like this and see what happens.
Yeah, just want to make sure you feel like when you do that, you're here, you don't go like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still square.
Yeah, still square. Yeah, I never want you to interpret it that I'm telling you to go like
Gotcha.
that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
More right there.
Okay. Do I have too much bend?
When you're, so when you're like this, just always, just want to try to make sure you just feel like this.
It's
and over the
natural.
hand. Yeah, just trying to get you to stay like that as much as possible.
Okay.
Never want to make sure you ever feel too stacked, one way or the other like that, and kind of being, just
Weight
like that.
kind of in the center.
Yeah, more, preferably, favoring, can be centered, preferably favoring a little bit out toward the insides
Okay, yeah.
of the feet, right in there. Yeah.
Okay, so here I am. This is acceptable setup right here.
That's a very acceptable setup. And then from here, then it's.
Where am I going?
Okay. You were going like this on me.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that you are going
And he goes in.
around that way. So right there. So then this leads to right there. So now you're totally braced on your left. Hands come like right in there as the hip, and now it's just ready to unleash.
Gotcha.
Right in the back of the ball, and then you come through and let the right side just simply release with the club.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit. You did better with the
The
tilt.
outcome was pretty good, but
yeah.
what was I doing there?
Yeah, you did better with the tilt. It's just
Okay.
right when you took it back again, it was a little more
sliding,
this way.
huh?
A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit. Because anything that goes this way
Yeah.
is going to affect your tilt.
Oh, okay.
If
And I gotta
any-
come back and match it up perfectly, or else.
Well, and the way you go back to try to match it up, though, is you teeter-totter.
I do that.
That's what because you
Okay.
have to.
Yeah.
That's how your body's going to react.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more set up here.
So
more
then, correct.
this.
So when you start there, okay, and you're like this for me now, yeah, it's getting you to do that right away. So what
Okay.
you do at the start, you go like this, start back. You move like that.
It goes this
Correct.
way instead of
And
this
that's
way.
what's going to affect your spine angle.
Gotcha.
So you got to stay like this, and now you move
This
that way.
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
And
what
so
you
that
gotta
right
feel.
knee just automatically follows that.
The left knee does.
The left knee, the left knee
Mhm.
follows that going back.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
Because that's what'll free up. If you let that, if you don't try to purposely keep that, see, like anything, if this goes out,
Yep.
like that way, it's so easy to go when I go out, like
That's when the knee goes to the ball.
yeah, or just stays there,
Oh, okay.
or just it doesn't, you're not. If I'm moving this way,
Yeah.
I'm not. You're not going to purposely because you don't want to you're not swaying. You're not going to purposely go like this. A lot of times when you just go like this right away, what'll happen is you'll just keep it there. It'll just stay put.
Gotcha.
You'll get here and then you'll come down and then rock back. Yeah.
Okay.
Just a little bit again. And
Okay.
that's what
Still
it'll
sliding a
always
little
be
bit.
a dead giveaway. This ball. My ball's crap. Some.
The giveaway is
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what'll be. Because I just want you, that's why, like, one of those key fundamentals again, you never see a top quality ball striker ever when they take it back. You'll never see the right hip go outside
Gotcha.
where its starting point is. You'll never see that because of how always, anytime my body moves like this, it automatically affects
Your tilt
my
goes
spine
away.
angle, yeah. Because I always want to keep my belly button. You have two centers. You have your lower center is your belly button. Your upper center is your sternum.
Yep.
the lower center, your belly button should always be in front of your upper center.
Okay.
Like
in front
that.
as in toward the target?
Correct.
Okay.
Never like this. If I bump this way,
Yeah.
now I'm like this, and then now to regain what I want, I have to teeter-totter. And which means
Okay.
my weight's going to go back.
Way back here.
There's no way I'm going to be like this and then teeter-totter and I'm not going to, I can't move to my left because
Then you'll fall
I
backwards.
feel like I'd fall backwards. So that's how your body naturally reacts, is that it moves, it teeter-totters, so now your right leg becomes your main pivot point instead of your left leg.
Okay. Through impact. you're
Through
saying?
impact, correct.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of times it's not that you won't, I mean, because you swing it from the inside.
Yeah.
It's not like you won't be able to release it and get away with it.
Yeah.
But it's never going to feel like a shot that like the hair on your neck stood up.
Right.
Like you just can't believe how good it felt.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that feeling. It's always going to feel like, yeah, it's all right, but I'm missing something. It's never, I never feel like I'm pure in it
Yeah.
the way I want to, and that's because of
Teeter-totter.
that move.